So, welcome, guys. Look, this channel is all about language learning and communication primarily, right? And within that communication comes our choice of words. So, I want to discuss a few tips that the writer Jonah Berger has mentioned in his book called Magic Words. A lot of these things, and actually, his work is usually research backed. So, there's research, there's university research that has gone into developing these tips, and I think these are going to be extremely important for anybody who's communicating, especially for people whose first language isn't English, for people who are learning English, for people who are not exposed to English as much. When you're talking to other people whose first language might be English, or who might have had years of practice in English, they'd treat your words very differently, right? So these things are going to make or break how people perceive you. It's going to make or break how well you do in your interviews, how well you do in your whatever activities which involves other people. And then one of the tips is for yourself, for your inner talk as well. So make sure to pay a little bit of attention here, and if you want to go into depth of what I'm talking about, check out the book Magic Words. I think it's an amazing book. I'll leave the link in the description below for you guys to check it out. But yeah, with that, number one is, he says, turn your actions into an identity. So he gives an example of children being asked for help. So especially when children are doing something else, they were asked, could you come and help me to do, let's say, tidy up the room, which kids don't like. But then the kids were like, okay, fine, maybe I won't do it. Nah, I'm busy drawing with my crayons. But then there was a slight change that the school tested out. Rather than saying, could you come and help us out, they said, could you be a helper and test us out? Or sorry, helper and help clean the room. So what happened here? The word or the activity that needed to be done was changed into an identity, right? So if I say I run is different than I am a runner. I've talked about this before, by the way, right? If tie things to your identity, I am a runner means I am serious about running, I'm serious about my health, right? So that's important, which is something that I've been doing these days, by the way, to wake up early. So I am a chronic, or rather I love to sleep. And one of the things that I've been doing is I'm an early riser. That's what I've been doing for like now a couple of months now. I'm waking up like before 7 most of the times, sometimes like 7:15, but usually before 7, which I think is good enough for me for what I do, given my work actually starts at 10 a.m. Now it's what, 8, and I'm making this video for you guys. So I think that's an important one. Turn whatever the action that you want to do into a very specific identity, and that can really help. The second tip that he mentions is changing can'ts to don'ts, right? And very strategically changing the word can't to don't. So when we use can't, I can't do this because blah 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 blah. Usually when we use the can't words, the responsibility of us not doing something is external, right? I can't do this because my doctor has said so. I can't do this because my parents don't allow me. I can't do this, blah blah blah. And when actually we want to shy away from a commitment, let's say a friend is asking us to go out for beers, and we don't want to go and drink. So rather than saying I can't, I don't know, I don't want to, all of those things, I can say I can't do this because my doctor has told me not to drink beer, right? Now the person has to go and convince the doctor. So you've just taken yourself out of a situation, but this is a smart usage of the word can't. However, there are other places where you have to use the word don't. And I'll give you an example here. If I say I don't do this, now that means I have decided I am not going to do that. So if you want to feel a little bit more powerful for certain situations, maybe not external, maybe just external, rather than using I can't, now you should use I don't. Because I don't means I have the power. I can't means somebody else made the decision for me. So can't versus don't, the usage is going to matter. The usage is going to matter how the person on the other end perceives you and your situation. I don't want to do this. I don't want to go out on a Saturday night with you means I don't like you. Probably the person is going to have 100 different scenarios in their mind about why don't I like them, blah blah blah, all of those things, right? So I can just say I can't, I'm not allowed to, right? to get out of that situation. So I think that's a very important one on how we use both of these words. Number 3 is turning shoulds into coulds, right? So I should do this means usually that I have a couple of choices and I have to pick one, and the stakes for each one is very, very high, and the creativity is going to be low because you've limited your options by saying, should I do this, right? When you say should I do this, the answer is yes, no, maybe, right? There are only 3 answers that you have. But if you change, and let's say you're in a sticky situation, but if you change that should into a could, what happens then? What could I do? How many answers to this question you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I don't know. You've just probably not even doubled, but you've ended up 100xing your creativity by just changing should into could in a very specific situation, right? So especially Jonah in his book mentions this right versus right scenario. So there is a right versus wrong scenario, like should I commit a crime to get a lot of money? The answer is what? Right versus wrong. One is right, one is wrong. It's a pretty simple answer. I should not, right? But if the answer was right versus right, he gives an example of a pet who's got a very rare form of cancer. There is not enough money. Should you raid the warehouse that carries those medicines? Now, if you raid the warehouse, you'll get the medicine for your pet, so you save their life. But is it a good thing to do? No. But then but on the other side, you can't let your pet die, right? So it's like a very tricky balance. It's almost a right versus right kind of a scenario, where one is like not wrong, the other one is not right. So and I think that's where this should versus could can open up a lot of your options. So rather than saying should I go raid that warehouse for medicines, what could I do to help save my pet's life? So that's a very good example that he gives in this book, and I think that's very important for people like us to understand. It will allow us, and by the way, as I just said, turning actions into identities, actual can'ts to don'ts, shoulds to coulds, all of these when paired together are going to change how you talk to yourself and others, and that's also going to change how others perceive you. Number 4 is our self-talk. Within the self-talk, there are 2 parts. One is it should always be positive. I've worked with many international level players. I have played and I have trained under a very reputed sports psychologist as well as a European level coach. And during my sports psychology training, the workshops that I was taking up in Denmark, one of the things that I was told was, in no circumstance ever you should have negative self-talk. So number 1 is, of course, positive self-talk, and this is something that Jonah Berger talks about as well. But second thing that he talks about is, during a self-talk, we can distance ourselves from a situation to think objectively, to look at the situation and open up creative options by talking in third person. So rather than oh Shivam, you should do this, or Shivam, you could do this, rather than that, I could ask, what could Shivam do in this situation? And this is, of course, my self-talk. So rather than saying it out loud, I'm talking about, what could Shivam do in this situation? His YouTube isn't growing. What ideas could he try out? Rather than saying, Arey, Shivam, what should you do? Kya karna chahiye? Vagera, all of those things. So I think that's an important point. So positive self-talk, third person rather than first person, could be very, very helpful to just be a bit more creative, look at the things relatively objectively. Last one, which I think is extremely important. So smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Last one is pick your pronouns, is what he says, is use I, you, all of these things very, very smartly. Sometimes it can feel like we are blaming others. So for a very good example that he gives, I think should be more than enough to get this point across. I wanted to talk to you, but you were busy, so I didn't. Versus, I wanted to talk to you, but I felt this might not be the right time, or this might not be the best time to talk. Wow. How have things changed? One is, you were busy, so I couldn't talk to you, and we missed this. The other one is, I wanted to talk to you, but the time wasn't right? So one is blame on you. The other one is, all right. He also gives an example of using the word you in customer support pages, etc. So if you use it in the customer support page of a website, people feel like they have to do all the work and the company isn't helping them out, so they feel relatively sad. But if you use the word you in social media titles, for example, I will use the word you in the title of this video, probably I might also have it in the thumbnail somewhere. What changes? It tells you that I am talking to you personally, to you. So the way we use I, the way we use you, especially in fights with our husband, wife, right? If I'm talking to my wife, I should be very cognizant of what words that I'm using. If am I implying blame? Maybe I don't feel like that, but the way I choose my word to somebody who's not looking at things from my in or from my shoes rather, they won't be able to understand that, right? And that's going to cause problems. So these 5 things I think are life changing tips. They are going to open up such a huge world for every one of us, and I think we should all try and integrate these more. Of course, for more detail you can check out his book. I think an amazing book. I'm not done with that book, by the way, yet. I am in the middle, so I thought I'll make the video anyways. So that's all. I'll see you guys next time. Till then, bye. Take care, guys.